Man, you really know how to get someone down. Everything was fine until you came around. I've been chasing after dreamers in the clouds. After all, wasn't I the one who said to keep your feet on the ground? Man, you really brought me back down. Hold on to hope if you got it. Don't let it go for nobody. They say that dreaming is free. I wouldn't care what it cost me. You got me tied up, but I stay close to the window. I talk to myself about the places that I used to go. Hope that maybe someday I'll just float away. I'll forget every cynical thing you say. When you gonna hear me out? Man, you really bring me down. Hold on to hope if you got it. Don't let it go for nobody. They say that dreaming is free, but I wouldn't care what it cost me. Reality will break your heart. Survival will not be the hardest part. It's keeping all your hopes alive when all the rest of you has died. So let it break your heart. Hold on to hope if you got it. Don't let it go for nobody. Hold on to hope if you got it. Don't let it go for nobody. They say that dreaming is free. I wouldn't care what it cost me. Thank you.
Hi guys. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Alex. I'm a senior graduating from New Richmond this year, and today I'm going to talk about sort of nature and how that, at least for me, relates to faith, and hopefully a couple of takeaways for you in your life. So I'm out here in my favorite hammock spot, trying to get this recorded before dark, and hopefully the people having some fun shooting off in the distance aren't showing up on my microphone. So anyway, let's dive into it. So when Zach asked me to do one of these talks a few months back, I said yes, and then quickly thereafter realized I had no idea what I wanted to talk about. And I thought about it for a good while, right? And a lot of people have some sort of an inspiring story with their faith, a literal come to Jesus moment where everything hit them at once, or some notable challenge that faith helped them overcome. And I just didn't really have anything like that was interesting or relevant or had any possible application to anyone else's life. And so I just had a hard time coming up with a topic. And I was kind of stressing out about it, in fact. So one day, or one night, this would have been the Monday of my last week at UC Claremont. So for those of you who, again, don't know me, I am a New Richmond student, technically, but I've been full-time at UC Claremont for the past couple of years. So that's actually where I go to school. And it was about 9 p.m. and I was finishing up a study session with some classmates for a physics exam in the morning. And I went outside and I walked to my car to go home, and everything was just beautiful outside, right? UC has these lights along the paths at Claremont there, and they are only on at dark, so most people that are students aren't there early or late enough to actually see them on. And additional to that, I mean, the temperature was perfect. There was this just slight subtle breeze. There was no one around. I mean, it's 9 o'clock at night at UC Claremont. There's like 10 cars in the parking lot. No one's there. Everything was just perfect, and I noticed that. And when I got in my car, usually I'm someone who always has a song stuck in my head. I would be driving home ordinarily with 105.9 cranked up on the radio. And no, I just decided to turn off the radio, put the windows down, and drive home and just enjoy the surroundings, enjoy the beauty of the night. And it was while I was driving home that I realized somehow this would be what I was going to talk about. And I still didn't really quite know how, but I thought, hey, nature is where I feel the most connected to God. So before we go further into that, I want to ask you a question, which is, what moments or places or things make you feel the most connected to God? What are they, and why do they make you feel that way? Right? Because that's important to know. For me, it's out being in nature, and I know a lot of you might at least be able to relate to that somewhat, but not everyone necessarily feels that way. So think about what that is, and what I want to do is first describe why I feel connected to God in nature. So if you'd like to read a little bit about what I'm talking about, there's Psalm 19 and Isaiah 40 are a couple of good starting points. And I'll come back to Isaiah 40 later, but they talk about the power of God and how He created everything and why that really warrants our respect. And when I come out here, I think God created all this stuff that is extremely beautiful to me. So clearly, He's a much better architect than I could ever be, or that any of us could ever be. And it just makes me appreciate the scope of what God can really do. That He not only made the world and everything in it, but all this stuff that's so interconnected continues to work today. And I've been in a lot of situations where I could appreciate that beauty of nature. Everything from backpacking in New Mexico and being up on top of a mountain and seeing the reflection of huge clouds on a giant lake way off in the distance, and all of the mountains and everything way off, and just enjoying that view, to being up in Minnesota canoeing on lakes where you could go for several days without seeing anyone else outside of your group, and just the peace and tranquility of everything out there. And so for me, when I'm out here just feeling directly connected to God's role in our world is really, it's impactful to me. So the next sort of question that I would like to ask you is, have you ever wanted to be a tree? And I know that sounds extremely weird, but think about this. We all have a lot of stresses, a lot of responsibilities that the world expects of us. And have you ever just thought, man, I wish I could drop all of this and just go chill out in the woods somewhere and not have to worry about any of it? And I feel that all the time, and I know literally being a tree isn't necessarily the idea there, but why is it that when I feel like I would love to just take a few minutes and shed the responsibilities and the stress of the world, that my go-to place and most people's go-to place tends to be outside, right? Well, it's that connection. It's that connection to our faith, right? When we are outside, more so than we ever could feel this in a building, we are surrounded by God's power and His care for the world around us. So at this point, you're definitely asking, Alex, what are you talking about, right? You had a hippie moment in your car a couple months ago. You like sitting out in nature and recording church services in your hammock. What bearing does that have on my life? Well, let's take a look at Isaiah 40, verses 26 and 27. And in these verses, God is talking to Jacob, and He tells him to look up into the heavens and look at the stars, and notice how God can call each star by name, and that not a single one is out of place. And ties that back to God's just incomprehensible power, right? And He tells Jacob, if all of this stuff, if I've got control over all of this, and I know the names of all the stars, then how could I possibly not see your troubles? How could I not know what you're going through? How could I forget that? And it's true, He hasn't. No matter what you're going through, God hasn't overlooked or forgotten you and your struggles. He's got control over everything from the moon and the sun to the smallest ladybug crawling on a leaf. And so, to me, when I'm outside, it kind of serves as a reminder that no matter what we're going through, whatever pressures we're feeling, God's in control of all this. And so clearly, He's there looking out for us too, whether we realize it or not. And that leads me to sort of two takeaways here that I hope you guys can sort of apply or think about. One is that point from Isaiah that, look, we're all going through a lot, right? Whether that's your learning environment has changed and you're trying to adapt to that, or you can't hang out with family and friends, or you can't work maybe, right? There's all sorts of things that we're all going through now, and there's things that we go through anyway. But no matter what those struggles are, God is in control of all this stuff and knows every minute detail about how the world around us works, because He made it that way. And because of that, we can be reminded that He hasn't forgotten about us, and He hasn't forgotten about what we're going through. So take comfort in that. And the second takeaway I have for you is that you've got to take time to enjoy this world around you, right? I know not everyone necessarily feels the most connected to God when they're in nature, and some of you might not even hugely enjoy nature. I get that. But a lot of us, I think, can probably relate to this on some level. And I would say that whatever you're dealing with, whatever that stress is, where you feel like you just want to get away from the world, I know sometimes it's hard to find the time, but just chill outside for a few minutes and realize that all this is out here and serves as that reminder. So if I wanted to boil that down to an inspirational, fortune cookie saying or whatnot, I'd say that regardless of whatever stresses or challenges you're facing, the world keeps turning. All of the flowers are still going to bloom. The leaves are still going to grow on the trees. The bird that's obnoxiously chirping 30 feet above my head is still going to chirp. And, so the world keeps turning. So when you're feeling stressed out or you're feeling overwhelmed or uncertain of the future, take some time to just turn with it, right? Come out here and just be reminded that God's looking out for you, because He's looking out for all of this too, that stuff that we couldn't even begin to understand. So take comfort in that. I know we're all going through a lot. Hang in there, guys, and thank you. Hopefully this was reasonably coherent and provided some sort of takeaway for you. And I'm going to go out inside because it's a slight bit dark now. But thank you, guys.
Hi guys, my name's Katie. I am 16 years old and I am a sophomore in high school. And today I'm going to be filling you in on one of the most tragic moments in my life and how God really pulled me through that hard time in my life. So yeah, this story is about my uncle. His name is Alex. He has been the most influential male figure in my life for as long as I can remember. He's really helped me grow into the person I am now. I definitely would not like running and staying healthy and fit without him kind of giving me those tools at a young age. So our bond has been strong since the day I was born, basically. So that's why this story is so close to my heart. And yeah. So it starts out in 2017 in the fall during my cross-country season. I was supposed to have my home cross-country meet the next day, and that day I had a pasta party with my cross-country team where we carb load, and he had sent me a text saying, "Hey Katie, just wanted to wish you good luck on your big day tomorrow. I hope you do great. I have a 2-mile race today, really excited about it." And he sent me a song called Soul on Fire, which if you haven't heard it, it's a great song. I actually heard it before he sent it to me, so I looked at it and I was like, oh, thanks, thinking that, and I sat my phone down and I continued doing whatever I was doing with my teammates, taking for granted that that could have been the last moment I could have talked to him. So that day he had ran that 2-mile race, had a cardiac arrest at the finish line. They gave him CPR for 30 minutes before the ambulance could come, and they sent him to the hospital in South Carolina, which is where he lives. And I had gotten the news that night, and I was emotional with my mom in the kitchen. And I remember running up to my room, supposed to be packing up as much clothes as I could to go drive down and see him. And I sat on my bed and I looked up, and I remember being angry with God. Like, how could you take someone away from me who I need? I need him. He's been my rock. He's helped me through so much. He's my best friend. I was just heartbroken, and I was angry at God for taking away someone like that who's done nothing wrong. And I realize now that it's okay to be angry with God. You're allowed to be angry with God, because for me personally, I feel like that just grows your relationship. And now I look back and kind of see how all the puzzle pieces were kind of aligned there, because a week before, prior to the accident, I had actually been sitting in my room with my mom, kind of explaining to her that I don't feel God. I'm a Christian. I have gone to church every Sunday. I listen to Christian music. I go to Christian concerts. I pray, and I don't feel him. I don't know how to feel him, and I didn't know how to fix that feeling. And it's discouraging when you can't feel that way. Like the same way as all my friends at church are talking about their amazing relationship, and they can feel his presence. It's really discouraging. So it's kind of funny now looking back on seeing how he kind of had those puzzle pieces planted for me. throughout this tragic moment. So we drove down there, no sleep for 48 hours that week, so I was kind of crazy. And I got to the hospital. First thing I did was run into that ICU to see him, and my heart shattered when I looked at him. He was in therapeutic hypothermia, and if you haven't experienced that, it is horrible. The shivering, the blue skin, the cold feeling when you walk into the room, speaking to him and not being able to respond to me tore me apart. And seeing the ventilators and all the tubes down his throat was just horrifying to see him like that, because that's not how I remember him. So I ended up locking myself in the hospital bathroom and sitting there crying and being like, I'm alone. I feel alone. I have all these family members around me and this love and comfort from everyone, and I am alone. I feel empty and alone. And I was talking to God, and I told him, I was like, I need to not feel this way. I need you. So I finally unlocked myself out of the bathroom. We reconnected with family that we probably would never talk to, so that's one good thing about that accident. I had really focused on myself and God and our relationship, and did some soul searching, and really just kind of put everything in his hands, because I'm a controlling person. I like being in control. I like knowing what's going on, and at that time I had no control over anything. So the best I could do was give it to the one person I felt could handle it, which is God. So after that, I had walked into the hospital room alone to talk to Alex, like I always do. We talk about everything and everything. So I was talking to him, and I was holding his hand, and he squeezed my hand back. And at that time, I was freaking out. I was like, oh my God. I called in the nurses, and I called in my family, and he was waking up from his coma. And at that moment, I realized that God was just like giving me a little nudge, like, hey, I'm here, like, don't forget. So that was really uplifting. And after that, I told Alex, I was like, hey, I really would like to go home, fly home, and go to my cross-country meets, and because that's what I love doing, and that's what he would have wanted me to do. So I ended up driving to the hospital, or driving to the airport, and I got a call that he had developed a blood clot in his jugular, and they did not think he was going to make it. So I ended up turning around and getting ready to say my goodbyes to my best friend, the person I enjoy talking to, my family, which is absolutely heartbreaking. And I got there, I was in the car listening to MercyMe, even if you haven't heard that song, it is an amazing song. And that just really showed, like, God, I need you to handle this. You do what you see fits in this horrible situation, but I just need you I need you to heal him. So I got there, he ended up being okay, which was another moment where I was like, I see you, God. And he ended up being okay. He has gotten out, no brain defects or anything. He is perfectly fine now. He has a defibrillator in his chest to make sure it doesn't happen again. So my takeaway from this story is never take moments for granted. There's no guarantee for tomorrow, so be present in moments with your family, your friends, even strangers, because there might not be a tomorrow. So my other takeaway is it's okay to stray from God. He's always going to be there. It's okay to stray, because sometimes you have to hit rock bottom in order to look up. It's a cheesy quote, but it's true. And no, you're not too far from his reach. Run to him, because he's not just sitting there waiting for you. He is running at you, just like you're running at him. He wants you more than you want him. So of course he's going to be sprinting at you to connect and figure out how to make your relationship work. So my favorite verses out of this whole situation that have really gotten me through are Joshua 1:9, James 5:15, Jeremiah 29:11, and Philippians 4:6. These have really helped me through, and I don't think that God would have wanted anything else. Like, he has these puzzle pieces planned out, and you can't see them forming together unless there's this tragic accident, and you just see a lot of puzzle pieces shift into the way God wants them to be, which is really uplifting to me, to know that he's planning everything out perfectly. My relationship with God is so much better now, which is what I needed at that time. Good things come out of situations. See the good out of terrible situations, because if you only look at the bad, I mean, what is life? What is to live for if you can't find the good? So the good things that came out, I got to see family that I probably would have never seen without that accident. I grew spiritually with God, and my outlook on life is so different. And not to mention my amazing aunt, Christine, who was so supportive throughout that whole thing. They were best friends, and hopefully they will be getting married soon. She's actually helping me through a lot right now, which I am beyond thankful for, which is another puzzle piece God has placed to help me, myself. And I can't imagine all the other people in that situation that he's helped out. So yeah, let me know if you guys are feeling like you are separated from God, because I completely understand. If you want to talk, let me know. I'm always here to listen, anything and everything. Yeah, so stay healthy, stay safe. Thank you so much for listening. Bye, guys.
They say sometimes you win some, sometimes you lose some. Right now I'm losing bad. I've stood on this stage night after night, reminding the broken it'll be alright. But right now I just can't. It's easy to sing when there's nothing bringing me down. But what I will say when I'm held to the flame like I am right now, I know you're able, and I know you can save through the fire with your mighty hand. But even if you don't, my hope is you alone. They say it only takes a little faith to move a mountain. Good thing a little faith is all I have right now. But God, when you choose to leave the mountains unmovable, give me the strength to be able to sing it as well with my soul. I know you're able, and I know you can save through the fire with your mighty hand. But even if you don't, my hope is you alone. I know the sorrow, and I know the hurt would go all the way if you just say the word. But even if you don't, My hope is you alone.